Okay, about a couple or 3 weeks ago, I did a quick audio slash video. Remember, it's not really a video, but audio only on 3rd Nephi 1 through 8, which covers the years 1 through 34 from Christ's birth to Christ's death and what happened in the Americas in those days. And I said I would do one from the year 2001 to 2034 and kind of postulate what's going to happen between now and 2034. And that's what this is all about. So, first, let's do a review from years 1 through 34. Remember, year 1 was a sign of Christ's birth. The day and the night without a night, and then the next day. And around the year 4 or 5, people began to forget the sign that they saw. And secret combinations began to gain much more power after the year 5. And by the year 14, the Nephites and Lamanites had to unite to fight the secret combinations or the deep state of their day. And around the year 15, things started to look quite bad for the Nephites due to their wickedness. During the year 16 and through 18, Gideonhi, the leader of the Gadianton robbers of the deep state of the day, sent an epistle to Laconius, the chief judge of the Nephites, pretty much demanding that they surrender. And Laconius told the Nephites to pray and repent and be prepared to defend ourselves. During the years 18 through 19, the robbers, the deep state, came down and battle commenced. And there was a pause, but by 22 AD, the deep state or the secret combinations were destroyed because the Nephites and their allies repented. And the years 22 through 28, things were great in the Americas and the Nephite nation. Things were pretty wonderful. Now remember, Christ comes and total destruction comes just 6 years after the year 28 in the year 34. So in the years 29 through 30, things started to turn worse quickly. The main reason, the Book of Mormon states, is Satan's influence. They also mention class distinction and pride, etc. The year 30 through 31, the chief judge is murdered. They had a continuity of government event. Okay, where the government was destroyed. Different factions of the secret combinations divide up. Jacob and Antichrist leads one of the factions. And things are looking real bad. On the other side, though, miracles did happen to the faithful, and we are promised that that will happen in our day. Nephi performs great miracles, as we discussed in that last audio, and regular people teach about Christ, and miracles are performed. In the year 34, the sign of Christ, death happens, great destruction occurs in the Americas, and all the wicked are purged. Let's reiterate that. All the wicked are killed. All right, now let's kind of start a discussion from the years 2001 through 2034. I'm only going to give a fraction of the big events that happened from 2001 to very early 2026. Right now, it's January 2026. And those are mainly going to be financial related because that kind of controls how people's live. Remember, Mormon in the Book of Mormon could only give a fraction of the accounts that occurred in 3rd Nephi. There's a lot I really want to talk about, but I got to keep it short and just concentrate on certain things. So, Nephi from that time period also performed miracles, as we talked about. So, let's move on now. In the mid to late 1990s, we had great prosperity in our day here. In the 1990s, things were very great. Things were great for me as well, financially. That was one of the best times financially that I went through. Then in the year 2000, we saw the dot-com bust. And then in 2001, 9/11 occurred. The NASDAQ had a high. The NASDAQ stock market had a high in March of 2000, and that did not reach that high again until 2017. So there was a 17-year reset on that particular market. However, after 9/11, another boom started around 2002, 2003, and that lasted until late 2007, early 2008. Then at the end of 2008, the financial crisis or Great Recession occurred. It was the worst collapse since the Great Depression in the 1930s. The stock market bottomed in 2009. Okay, Now, after March of 2009, a recovery started, and it was one of the biggest growth, if not the biggest growth in history, and it lasted for almost 11 years until January of 2020. Now, much of the recovery and much of these events happened because they were fueled by debt and money printing. Okay, in January 2020, COVID strikes. The markets drop dramatically, but a V-shaped rebound occurs. Now, in January of 2026, the Dow is flirting near 50,000, and U.S. markets are at record highs. Pretty crazy stuff financially. So that's a brief financial recap of the cycles that occurred in America the last 25 years. Secret combinations are at play. They were probably most likely responsible for many of all the events that occurred, which caused things to have a major downturn, and they continue to get more power. And there are various factions involved, and many of them are trying to fight them, whether they are good or bad. There are many entities out there trying to fight them, whether they are good or bad. Now, I'm going to use the scriptures to postulate what will occur between now and 2034. Right now, I'm postulating that 2034 is the year that the Lord could return for the second coming. And that's 2,000 years to the year after his first coming in the Americas. Now, no one knows the hour of his coming, but studying the scriptures, you can estimate the season. And I will be pulling from many scriptures, such as the Book of Enoch, Book of Mormon, Daniel, Esdras, Revelations, and even President Nelson's conference talks. So, let's get started. Okay, things are going to happen very fast between now and 2034, just like they did in the Book of Mormon between the years 26 and 34. We don't have specifics on what occurred then, just a few general points that Mormon included, as we discussed when he was abridging the record. We know that secret combinations infiltrating the government was key. That is and will be key in our day. Let's start with Revelations chapter 8 specifically, and the 7 trumpet blasts that occurs. Now, Nephi was constrained and could not give us specifics on what will happen in our day. He did tell us, however, that the Apostle John would write these things. He also transcribed several Isaiah chapters into the Book of Mormon as well. As a reminder, our leaders today have the same constraints as Nephi. They can and will not talk plainly about these things and have constantly stated for us to do our own homework. Me, a nobody, is now giving my report on my homework, so to speak. So nobody can speak more. Nobody can speak more freely, but believe me, nobody's like me, is what I meant to say. Can speak more freely, but believe me, there are some things that I have learned that I do not speak freely about. I will wait until that event to happen, since the vast majority of the world is not prepared to hear it beforehand, and that includes members of the church I belong to. Also, if I am wrong, no harm done because I never stated it. So there's a little funny thing there. However, these things are in my notes that I have posted and I give access to people, meaning you still have to do the work yourself to find those things. So, back to Revelation chapter 8. Let's discuss the silence in heaven that will last about the space of 13 minutes. If the seventh seal opened at the year 2000, and we go by the Lord's time, exactly 30 minutes takes us to October of 2020. Now, John in the Book of Revelation said about the space of 30 minutes. So if we stretch that out to 39 minutes, I've learned from my studies that things always take longer than you think. 39 minutes may take us to the mid or late 2020s, kind of where we are at right now. So when the silence in heaven is over, the first 4 angels sound their trump in quick succession, and great calamities start to befall the earth. And remember, this is in preparation to prepare the earth eventually for the second coming of Christ. This is the start of it. So, when the first angel blows his trump, fire mingled with blood is cast upon the earth. When the second angel blows his trump, a great burning mountain is cast into the sea. And a third part of the sea becomes blood, and a third of the life and ships are destroyed. To me, it sounds like an asteroid comes. What usually comes with an asteroid? A bunch of fire and other things in the sky, like the first angel stated. Okay, but who knows? All right, when the third angel blows his trump, a great star called wormwood falls. Now notice that John said star, that is singular. And wormwood is associated with a bitter weed. It is a bitter weed. And Jeremiah in the Old Testament associates wormwood with false prophets. So when this great star called wormwood descends or arrives, many will die, and a third part of the waters will become bitter. And my theory, or one of the theories I have, is this may be the arrival of the Antichrist. And we'll discuss more on this later. Shortly after the third angel, the fourth angel blows his trump, and the earth becomes darker. A third part of the sun, moon, and stars are darkened. So darkness arrives on the earth with this fourth angel. Okay, now there's a pause. And John states in chapter 8 of Revelations that after the first four angels, there are three more to come. And the events from the next three will be much worse than what occurred during the first four. So after the pause, we don't know how long that is. I have some theories, but I'm not going to get into them in this audio. Another star falls, singular. So remember, it's another star. And he was given the key to the bottomless pit. And a smoke comes out. And he is instructed to not hurt those with the seal of God in their forehead. Okay. And then man is tormented for 5 months. Now, from my studies, I believe this is the restoration of the house of Israel, at least the first part of that restoration, the Lord's army coming to the Americas and living amongst us and preparing to cleanse. Now, there's also an interesting Hopi prophecy, and in the Doctrine and Covenants, it is talked about men we know not of. And another theory that could happen is during the fifth angel, these men we know not of can come and begin the preparations to purge the Americas, and then the house of Israel might be restored. And when the sixth angel sounds, which I'll get to in a second, the Hopi prophecy is awesome. They are the descendants of the people that were left in the Americas after Christ's first coming. They say that the land will be purged from two ways, one from the east and one from the west. Can't remember which one comes first. It's in my notes, though. Okay, now after 5 months have passed, the sixth angel blows his trump, and those that do not repent are killed. And John specifically says a third part are killed by fire. Third part? What does that mean, third part? Well, the Americas are 1/3 of the landmass of the world. So it is my theory that this is the cleansing of the Americas. Now remember, Moroni appeared to Joseph Smith several times and stated several times, quoting Malachi, that it will be a day of burning, a day of fire. But Moroni added, when he stated this to Joseph Smith several times, he said that for they that come shall burn them. So that's very interesting. So like I said, I believe when the sixth angel blows his trump, that is the start of the cleansing of the Americas. So who decides who is good and evil? Who decides who gets to be removed during this cleansing process? The Lord, just like in his first coming. So let's expand on this. 2 Nephi 21 or Isaiah 11 discusses the stem, rod, branch, and root of Jesse. I have an entire discussion on this in my notes on the Isaiah chapters that were transcribed in the Book of Mormon. I believe this rod is a Captain Moroni type person who is the captain of the Lord's army in the latter days that comes when Israel's restored. Revelations states this book, or the book of Revelation states this army is 200 million. This is a quote from the notes I took from 2 Nephi that discusses this. This rod will have the spirit of discernment. He will know who is wicked and who is not, as he and his army purge the land of wickedness. He will be Christ-like and not rejoice in his power, but not hold back either. The righteous need not fear. So how do we avoid this purge when it comes? How do we have the seal of God in our forehead? Our current leaders have told us. Paul told us in the New Testament. It is also stated many times in the Book of Mormon. You need to have charity and love for your fellow man. Okay? And you also need to mourn for the sins of the world, for the things that are occurring. Okay. So at this point now, the Americas are cleansed. The Antichrist, who was ruling from America, is ousted. I know I didn't get into details on that. I'll try to touch more on that later. He then takes refuge in Europe or Russia, most likely. The 3.5-year siege on Jerusalem begins at this time, after America's cleansed and the Antichrist is ousted. Now, America's redeemed. It's secure. The Constitution, which hung like a thread, is fully restored. The wicked have been removed. Our borders are secure by the destroying angel protecting the waters, and that is John the Revelator. He also leads the Lord's army when the sixth trumpet blasts. I didn't say that before. The 144,000, which come at the time of restoration, now go out throughout the world to bring the righteous into America. They are now in charge of immigration. The New Jerusalem, at least the city center, along with the temple, have descended from heaven and landed in Jackson County. That's Ether 13:3. Zion, okay. Now remember, Joseph's wife, Asenath, and Joseph was, one of the sons of Jacob. Asenath's city of refuge is now being built. Asenath's name was changed by the Lord to City of Refuge. That city is now being built out. Those of us that were worthy to stay will assist in building Zion, as the 144,000 bring in the righteous refugees from throughout the world. At this time, the Lamanites in America, the now Native Americans, will blossom as a rose, and they will be an integral part of this building out of Zion. Also, at the time of restoration, the D&C explains this, the two prophets arrive and secure Jerusalem during this 3.5-year siege, when the Americas are now secure, but the rest of the world is in turmoil. Who are these two prophets? No one knows. A theory I have from reading the Book of Enoch is they could be Elijah and Ezra, but I will probably be wrong. Also, at the time of restoration, the branch arrives. Okay, this branch is the Davidic servant discussed in the Bible that will lead Israel in the last days during this siege, with the assistance of the two prophets that have great power. This branch is also discussed in 2 Nephi 21 or Isaiah 11. Okay, sometime during all this, Christ appears in America, once America is secure, for the Grand Council meeting at Adamadaama. A lot of things are going on here that I will not discuss, don't have time to. President Benson, however, stated in a talk in 1981 there would be 3 second comings of Christ. This is the first, his appearance at the Grand Council meeting. I can go on and on, but will only give a fraction of the events. After the 3.5-year siege on Jerusalem, and remember, America's secure during this time, and people are being brought in, the righteous throughout the world. But after the 3.5-year siege, at the time that the Lord designates, the two prophets that are helping secure Jerusalem are allowed to be killed, and the Antichrist's forces advance into Jerusalem. When the Jews are just about to be destroyed, 3.5 days later, the two prophets arise to the amazement and fear of the world. Christ comes, and this will be the second of the 3 second comings, splits the Mount of Olives, allowing the Jews to escape. This is the 7th and final angel sounding his trump. Okay, after Christ splits the Mount of Olives and the Jews escape, Christ speaks and the Antichrist army is destroyed in an instant, in an Indiana Jones or Thanos type of event. At this time, the wicked that remain, not counting in America, remember they were already purged out of the Americas, but the remaining wicked in the rest of the world are now destroyed, and the entire world is now thoroughly purged of wickedness. During this 3.5 years, the Jews did suffer greatly. Revelation stated a third remained, so 2/3 were killed during the process, and this third was the more righteous. Some days later, maybe 40 days, Daniel kind of mentions this, Christ's third, final, and grand second coming to the entire world occurs. The 7-year cleanup, as described in the book of Revelations, begins. The world is now ready to rest for 1,000 years. The New Jerusalem, eventually, which Revelations discusses, will be 1,500 miles cubed, and it's centered over Jackson County, Missouri, from the Doctrine and Covenants. And the Book of Enoch describes the portals that will be at the New Jerusalem. There will be 3 portals on each side, 3 on the north, 3 on the south, east, and west. And this is where people from the entire universe or multiverse can flow in to learn from the Lord as they arrive from worlds without number to the intergalactic capital of the universe, America. This is a lot to happen in the next 8 years or so, and I have only touched on a fraction of the events. I'm always off on timing, but I believe these events will be literal and not, symbolic. So, what other details might occur during the next 8 years or so from now, along with what I discussed from Revelations? Reading Daniel and Second Esdras, Second Esdras is in the Apocrypha. The order of the events are laid out. Okay, and the Book of Mormon talks about this. So the secret combinations have to be destroyed. The restoration of Israel happens, and then the second coming of Christ. It's all about the secret combinations, a big part of this. And the Book of Mormon has warned us about that. Also, I have stated this several times, rooting out and destroying the secret combinations will cause catastrophic damage, including catastrophic collateral damage. Right now, they're being outed. I mean, this has been happening for the last year at an accelerated rate. You guys can see it if you look at the right news sources. The deep state, the secret combinations are being outed. You can see the chaos that this is causing, and this will continue and it will accelerate. Remember, Daniel chapter 12, verse 1 states that this time will be the worst time in the earth's history, worse than any other time that there ever was. Okay, it's going to get wonderful very quickly, but we got to go through this pain. Second Esdras and Daniel also give the events in order, like I talked about. I have full study guides on these, so I will not dive into the full details. But a theory of mine is, in the United States, we are probably going to have, this is just a theory, some sort of continuity of government event in the coming months to years. Okay? The 10 horns will come to power, and these 10 horns are discussed in the book of Daniel and the book of Revelations. I believe 3 will come to power in America, one right after the other. One horn will assume leadership, and he brings the Antichrist in as an advisor. This is discussed in Daniel 11. Eventually, the Antichrist will take power after plucking up 3 leaders by the root. That is explained in Daniel 7. It will be a nightmare at this time for those of faith during this time, and he will rule for almost nearly 3 years in America. This has got to start. This has got to happen soon. Okay, Israel is then restored and oust him, and I talked about how this happens in the book of Revelations, and America's cleansed. So America gets redeemed and cleansed first, and then the rest of the world's in turmoil for at least another 3.5 years, as I stated earlier. Okay, are you seeing the things that are happening in the world now? Are you watching reliable media sources? Things are changing rapidly. There's just a couple more things I want to discuss. I don't want this to get too long. When the 2 prophets are allowed to be killed in Jerusalem, many in that part of the world rejoice. They send each other gifts in celebration. This is discussed in Revelations. Have we recently seen people rejoice in the killing of others? Yes. Do not participate in that. Participating in the rejoicing of the death of others might make you a candidate to be burned by fire when the Lord's army arrives. Believe me, you'll want to be around for the millennium, so have charity and love in your heart. Also, the rest of the world has been isolated from the Americas during these 3.5 years. Many have no idea what is happening in America. Many just know they cannot go upon the waters. We talked about this earlier. To get to America, they are guarded by the destroyer that's talked about in Revelations. They know something is going on, and they cannot go against the people of Zion that are in America. These people outside of the Americas also witness the true nature of the rapture. For example, 2 women are working in a field, one is taken, one remains. 2 women are working, or 2 are sleeping in a bed, one is taken and one remains. Those are all scriptures in the Bible that talk about the rapture. Those that are taken are righteous and have been brought into the New Jerusalem by the 144,000. That's how they mysteriously disappear. That is Joseph Smith's translation of the Bible. The Americas will be isolated from the rest of the world during these 3.5 years. Kind of funny. Do we see things happening right now, like literally now, that have started the process to isolate the Western Hemisphere from the Eastern Hemisphere, whether it be good or bad? Think about that. There are so many things that happen between now and when the Lord returns. I wish I could talk much more about this. Um, for example, the eventual temple in Jerusalem that will replace the Dome of the Rock, how that might occur. Okay, the scriptures are amazing. There are so many patterns and puzzles. It also makes it fun when you discover things. We are so blessed to have modern day leaders at the world and local levels. Things are crazy and will get crazier fast. We have been promised we will be endowed with great power to withstand the days of trial we are now living in, and we haven't seen anything yet. Remember, Nephi and regular ordinary people in the ancient Americas also had this endowment of great power. Okay. I will end with a word from our former President Nelson. I recently made a video that discussed many of his words and warnings the past 10 years and linked that to a 10-year warning pattern. Please see that video as well. It'll make more sense when I read this last quote. As our late President Nelson stated, and I'm quoting this directly, and this is from the October 2024 General Conference. Okay. My dear brothers and sisters, do you see what is happening right before our eyes? I pray that we will not miss the majesty of this moment. The Lord is indeed hastening his work. Brothers and sisters, now is the time for you, for me, to prepare for the second coming of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Now is the time for us to make our discipleship our highest priority. My dear brothers and sisters, in a coming day, Jesus Christ will return to the earth as the millennial Messiah. So today I call upon you to rededicate your lives to Jesus Christ. That's all for now. Have a great day.